Greetings, monkey brains.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, dude?
Hey, just wondering if you got any evidence for the thing that you call God?
I think there's first and foremost philosophical evidence, sure.
Okay, what's the best you got?
I make the transcendental argument that if God doesn't exist, then reasoning, logic, ethics become impossible. And by impossible, I don't mean that people don't do them. I mean impossible in the sense that there's not a justification for doing and believing in those things.
Okay, so you're trying to say that these things are grounded in this God thing?
Yes.
Okay, why can't we just ground them in just reality itself?
I mean, the idea that reality itself has some kind of intellectual or conceptual content is, I think, vacuous. What does that even mean? What is reality itself? I mean, to say reality itself is a metaphysical claim. So we're asking for the grounding of metaphysics itself. So we need something more than just a metaphysical claim to ground metaphysics.
All right, so what you're trying to say here is that logic, do you think that logic requires a God?
I do, yeah.
Okay, why?
Because if we don't have that kind of a being to intellectually or in an epistemic sense ground it, it doesn't make sense how logic can be or function. So it's an epistemic argument that I'm making right now, and that's the best way to explain how things like universal, immaterial, conceptual, invariant entities like logic can be, is if there's a God that's where we ground these things in the divine mind, that makes sense for how those things can be. To say that they just are would be arbitrary.
Well, we can just ground them in human minds. We can just say that logic is descriptive of the world, and therefore we don't need a God at all.
Right, but to have a reductionist move immediately puts us in a position where there's all kinds of logical problems for trying to ground logic in the human mind. For example, my mind is not your mind. So to just say that it's in the human mind actually won't get us to justification.
Right, but I'm saying logic is something that human minds do, right? Human brains do.
Yeah, but
we tend to agree upon the axioms, right? We tend to agree upon the conclusions we make on logic.
Yeah, but it doesn't
matter.
matter.
Because they are descriptive of the world. They're not prescriptive.
Right. Well, but to say that because we do it and because we agree on it doesn't get you justification. So those are because those are fallacies.
Why doesn't it give us justification to just do logic?
Because the two things that you said are fallacies.
How?
To just do something doesn't provide justification for how and why that thing is. That's a fallacy. I mean, you're laughing, but it's a fallacy.
It's just
okay.
Logic.
The other one, you're just saying it just is. Okay, again, these are arbitrary conjectures.
No, I'm not saying it just is. I'm saying
it's just something
our minds do. It's the way.
That's saying that it just is.
World, right?
Okay, so we do all kinds of things. That doesn't provide justification for how or why it is the case. Likewise, you appealed. Hold on.
My entire point here is
hold on.
God.
Likewise, you appealed to the fact that we all appealed to the fact that we all agree on it. That's called the mass appeal fallacy. So the two things that you've argued.
I'm not saying in virtue of us agreeing and therefore it's true. What I'm saying is
that is what you said.
The logic itself is a way that we use axioms and descriptions.
Using an axiom doesn't. Okay, again, use.
Right? Therefore, you don't need God.
Doesn't matter. Use doesn't grant you justification.
Why not?
Because I could use all kinds of things, or I could say that we do all kinds of things as humans. That doesn't mean that it's justified to believe in. That's not a good reason to believe in the thing because it's used.
Okay. So you're saying you're gonna just add God to the equation and pretend as if
no, I didn't just add God to the equation. I made a specific argument that a specific type of immaterial invariant thing, a universal concept, requires a certain type of universal being to ground it. It's a very precise argument.
How do you justify that?
That is the justification for the existence of logic.
Okay, that we could do the same thing for human minds. We can just say the justification is that human minds exist, therefore you don't need God. Human minds
don't give you. Human minds don't grant you the justification because human minds are finite, and your move is a reductionist move.
Wait, what? They're finite?
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of this, but a human mind is finite.
That we can ground logic in minds.
It doesn't get you the grounding, because a human mind is finite. You can't justify because it's a universal.
It shows that because the mind is finite.
Do you know, because it's a universal? Is the human mind universal?
What does that even mean?
What does that even mean? So basic terms in philosophy, you don't even know what we're talking
it's not
about.
Universal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. So it doesn't provide justification, right?
But the mind is
reality is universal.
The mind,
yeah.
sir. Hold on for a second.
And let's move on to the next one. No knowledge of what we're talking about. Basic philosophy. What does that even mean, universal? You mean like Logic 101? You mean like Epistemology 101, universal claims? That thing that you don't know about?